Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Romeo, and I'm here to teach you how to write a play. So, a little bit about me. I've acted in the Capital Region since the sixth grade. I'm 19 now, and I'm a second semester sophomore at Widener College, repping the college on my hat. I've written 5 plays and have more in the works, writing over break. So, I want to make sure that this point is made to everyone. Anyone, I mean anyone, can be a playwright. All you need is imagination, I promise, and something to write with. Pen, computer, typewriter, even. You could even say it to someone and they can write it for you. You just need a way to write it down. That is really important. So, if you want to write a play, you don't even need to start with an idea, but you do eventually need to have one. So, first thing to really do to make an idea happen, you just need to have a little brainstorming session. You could come into it with an idea, or you could come up with one to write about. So, just take a second right now and think about some things that you find interesting, jobs that you find interesting, animals that you find interesting, parts of life that you find interesting, aspects of life that you find interesting. Maybe like you find cabinets interesting. You want to write about a carpenter. So maybe that could be your story. Maybe you find chipmunks interesting. You want to write about a chipmunk family in the woods or something like that. Magic, like any of those things that you think are interesting, you can then build your story around. And I'm going to show you how. So after you have your basic ideas, like, okay, I want to write about a carpenter. So you got to know the beginning of the story and the ending of the story. So maybe at the beginning, he wakes up and he goes to his carpentry shop. Easy way to begin. Maybe at the end, he builds a massive boat and sails across the ocean. Okay. And now you know where it's going to start and where it's going to end. So all you need to figure out is how to get from the beginning to the end, which will come naturally because I think most people like when you're watching a movie or something, you can like guess what's going to happen next because humans just kind of know, like we have a little bit of a predictive knowledge, so we can kind of just be like, oh, this is logical to happen next. And you don't even need to have characters at this point. You just need to know the beginning and the end, and then speak the story out loud. To get the rest of the plot. So, okay, he wakes up in the morning, he goes to work at his carpentry shop, someone comes in and orders something, but then that person is like, oh, I have a secret mission for you. So then maybe he has to go and find like a secret blueprint to build this massive boat. And then he finds it, and that could be act one. And then act two, maybe he's opens up, he's in his carpentry shop and he's got the boat half built. And then maybe his wife comes in, she's like, I've been spending so much time building. And then eventually he builds the boat, right? So then you have your whole story, and you have already 2 more characters you just came up with because you need them to help tell the story. So some characters will just come naturally to the plot. Like we have our main character. That was easy. He woke up. We have the customer who comes in, and then we have the wife. So that's 3 characters already. But it's really important to not have too many characters that you can't develop them and really give them 3 dimensionness and depth, I guess. Those are some crazy writer words, but it's true. You need to make sure you don't have too many that you can't develop them. So like a play or musical, I find that in is Grease. There's a lot of lovable characters. They're all very funny, but there's not really much depth to them, I think, at least. But what makes a good character? They need to have a problem that needs to be solved, and they need to make decisions we understand. And they don't even need to be the right decisions. We just need to understand logically why they would do it. So, for example, the character gets in a car accident. His problem is, what does he do now? Does he drive away, or does he stay and wait for the police to come and insurance, whatever? So let's say he drives away, but we can understand why he did that because he just got fired from his job. So even though he made the wrong choice, we can still understand why he did it. And then you need to plan out your motifs and your symbols and stuff. So like a motif is like something that's like a theme, but it's not the theme. It's just kind of like a point you want to emphasize. So like in Great Gatsby, everyone's rich. So it's like a class divide motif. And then like symbols, like in the Glass Menagerie, you have the actual glass menagerie, the little glass animals. And it's important to plan those out so you can disperse them properly throughout the show. So like if one of your motify kind of things is you have a character writing in a journal and she's like saying what she's writing out loud so you can see inside her brain. That's awesome, but you can't just do it one time because then it's a little weird. Like, oh, is that really necessary? But maybe if you have it in like the third scene of Act One and like the fifth scene of Act Two, it can be, oh, we're hearing how her thoughts change from the beginning of the story to the end. And that is interesting. And it's okay to only do it 2 times. You could do it 5 times, 9 times, but you have to do it more than once, I think, at least, because then it seems a little bit weird, you know? So then you have all these things planned out. You're like, okay, I want to write in a journal. I want there to be like a shirt that's symbolic. He's building this boat. We have these characters so far. Because you can always add more and you can always take away more. So then you go through and make a list of all the locations you want the story to go. So, okay, at the beginning, he's in his house. He wakes up. That's scene 1. Scene 2, he goes to his workshop. Scene 3, he's going to look for the blueprint. Where could he go? He goes to the woods. Maybe he gets lost there. He meets someone who gives him the blueprint. Okay, so we go to his house in the woods. Then we go back to the workshop. So those are 5 locations already, which is, depending on how long those scenes are, can be Act 1 or it could be a 1-act play. But there you go, you have 5 scenes. So then you go, okay, well, what happens in each of these scenes? So like for the forest scene, he gets lost. Maybe at the beginning of the show, he can hit his thumb with a hammer, and then through the whole show, he's like, my thumb hurts. And then at the end, maybe he gives like a thumbs up or something, like a joke finishing. And then, so this is like your skeleton of the story. If you ever like wrote an outline for a paper, this is basically what you're doing. You're just doing it in scenes. So you've got it all planned. Now what? It's time to start writing, which is totally the scariest part, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm going to show you how to make it easy. First, you're looking at the blank page, right? So first things first, you want to write the stage directions. So at the beginning of every scene, these describe the setting. So this can include the layout of the furniture, the location, the actions that are happening before their speech, the time of day, even the weather. And this stuff, although the audience won't ever really like read the, like if you have, 4:23 on December 14th, it's snowing, lightly cloudy. They won't ever read that, and they probably won't really know that it's December 14th or that it's 4:23 p.m. But they could know because the designers, this is kind of like information for the designers and also for you setting the scene in your brain, because you're writing it, you're not just like painting it out in real life. And they can show the audience that way. Okay, it's December, it's cold, it's 4:23, it's at night, probably have a jacket on, the lights are probably dim. Or if this is where the setting's important, 4:23 in December in New York and 4:23 in December in in Florida are 2 different things. It's warm, it's light in Florida, it's dark, it's dreary, it's snowy in New York. So these are all important things for the storytellers, for the story listeners and watchers to see, because this will give information and it kind of gives you a starting point for where you want to start the scene. And then next, hopefully, well, not hopefully, you could do a whole silent play. I've seen it before. It was actually pretty cool. But so now you write the dialogue. So I think it's really important and helpful to just talk the conversation out loud, because and just think about what you would say there, and then you can tweak it to be what the character would say. Because unless you're writing yourself into the play or a character that's based off you, it probably won't be exactly how you talk, but you can tweak it to make it like, oh, hey, how are you doing? I'm good. How are you? Obviously, you'd say that there, or I'm bad, but maybe you wouldn't say it like that, so you can tweak it. Then every conversation should progress the plot in some type of way. Don't spend 5 pages talking about the weather if the weather is never important to the story. Or don't, and even you can spend a little bit of time talking about the weather in small talk, because they can show that maybe the 2 characters don't know each other well and they're trying to make conversation, which could be funny. It's important for the character development. But if it's just 5 pages about the weather with no real significance to the story or the characters, you don't need to put it in. And then you can leave some things up to the imagination. We don't need to see if the carpenter had a bad day at work. We don't need to see that. He can just kind of tell us about it in lines to his wife or his friend on the phone. We don't need to see the whole day at work, because that can make it a little bit too long of a play. And then all you need to do is just write everything down, because you can edit everything later. Like 50% of playwriting is planning it out, and then 50% is editing, and then like there's no percent left, but like the writing is really not the main part. Well, yes, it's the main part, but that's really kind of the easy part. And then exposition. So exposition is kind of where you this the background information. So you could have a narrator who lays out the background information, or you can say it in lines. On the left is kind of an example of what I would say is not as good exposition, because it's kind of in your face and up front. And then on the right, it's kind of more seamlessly worked in the conversation. We're hearing facts that we don't know, but they talk about a lot, so it's not like as much in your face. Like especially the ones I'm married to. We didn't know that they were married when we first started watching the play, but now we do, and they didn't explicitly be like, my name is John, and this is my wife Sue. And then just some final last minute tips. Try and write it all out as fast as you can. Not like speed, but like write it out in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, and then have a group read it out loud, because that's really what you're gonna when you're gonna hear what works and what doesn't work and what needs to change and what jokes are could be tweaked and stuff. We'll talk about jokes in the third bullet point. And then maybe you could even decide what parts you don't need to show anymore. You don't even want in. If these same three characters have the same argument in three different scenes, maybe you don't need to have the third argument or the second argument, and then you can just talk briefly about that argument to a different character without us seeing it. Because if we've already seen it before, we know kind of what is going to happen. And it's also nice to leave some things up to the imagination, like who is the Wizard of Oz? We don't know, and we don't see him till halfway through the show, but we can imagine what it is, because that's just how humans work. They imagine things. And then for things that are funny, write things that you think are funny, and as long as you think it's funny, someone else will totally think it's funny. That, of course, if you're making jokes about things that shouldn't be joked about, that's a little different. But if it's like a pun that you're like, I think this is funny, and then someone's like, I don't think that's funny. Comedy like that is subjective, so not everyone will think it's funny. And then finally, keep practicing. This is a important skill to practice. Well, not important skill. I mean, it's important to me because I like to do it. But it's important to practice, because then things will be a lot easier. You can do things a lot quicker, and things like exposition will be put in more seamlessly, and that is all. So I hope these steps and tips helped you, and I hope you have a bright, shining future in playwriting.